The Duke and Duchess of Sussex have been asked to vacate their former royal home by this summer. But they're far from the first royals to be asked to do so. While Prince Harry and Meghan Markle were the first members of the British royal family to make Frogmore Cottage their home, the Windsor property has been in use since the late 18th century. It was built as a retreat for a queen consort and her daughters, but later became a home to a beloved aide, a nursery for future kings and a place of refuge for an almost destitute royal. However, the Duke and Duchess are not the first to be evicted from their home, with figures of the past also being forced to vacate the comforts of their royal residence. Here, Express.co.uk takes a look back at previous royal evictions and how they may foreshadow the Sussex's fate. In October 1893, Queen Victoria offered Frogmore Cottage to her Indian secretary, Abdul Karim, who had served the monarch for 6 years and become her firm favorite. Victoria developed a maternal affection for her secretary, whom she called Munshi, and often signed off her letters to him as your affectionate mother, VRI, or your truly devoted and fond-loving mother, VRI. Victoria had allowed Abdul to decorate the home how he liked, according to Sharbani Basu, whose 2010 book Victoria Abdul, The True Story of the Queen's Closest Confidant, inspired the film starring Judi Dench in 2017. I imagine it was very beautiful and he filled it with beautiful objects he was given by European royalty, she said. I'm sure it was full of exotic things. Ms. Basu added, she would bring European royalty with her to visit. They would often go there for tea and meet the Munshi and his wife. Her diaries are full of mentions of meeting the Munshi and his wife for tea. Abdul lived in the cottage with his family for less than 10 years. While he shared a close bond with the Queen, he did not have a good relationship with the rest of the royal family. And when Victoria, Ms. Basu said, it was early morning and just hours after her funeral. Queen Alexandra and Princess Beatrice were standing there and a lot of guards, and they ordered a raid on his house and all of his letters were taken and burned. It was a heartbreaking moment in Abdul's life. It was a bit of dark history. Soon after, Abdul was evicted from Frogmore Cottage and deported back to India. Royal historian Marlene Koenig told Express.co.uk, Edward VII kicked the Munshi Abdul Karim out of Frogmore Cottage soon after Victoria died. The royal family then scrubbed his existence from history, with Beatrice erasing all reference to Karim in the Queen's journals. It was not until 100 years later, when Ms. Basu noticed several paintings and a bust of Abdul during a tour of Osborne House, that the truth of Victoria's relationship with her Munshi was discovered. Royal Refuge. In 1925, after years of playing host to members of the royal family and their acquaintances, Frogmore Cottage welcomed a new tenant. King George V had offered the home to his first cousin, Grand Duchess Xenia of Russia, who had fled her home country after the execution of her brother Tsar Nicholas II and his family. Nicholas was the last emperor of Russia and Xenia was one of his 2 surviving sisters. Having left Russia in 1919, the Grand Duchess's financial situation was dire, prompting King George to offer her a grace and favor home. She sent a letter to her cousin, expressing her gratitude for his kindness. Really, Georgie, it is too good kind of you. Xenia lived at the cottage which, at the time, had around 23 rooms but only 1 toilet, with several of her sons and their families. When the home became too crowded, the family were offered Home Park Cottage, which stood opposite the family's home, as an overflow property. In 1929, a Ministry of Works official found that the cottage was in deplorable condition, as the house had not been touched for several years. Subsequent refurbishments.